Hey guys, welcome back to part 3. Okay, I got the carrier here. Here's the big bearing, the new one. And I am going to take a little bit of emery paper and kind of clean up the inside of that. However, I don't want it, I want it to kind of stick in there because if I remember right, this is what they call a floating bearing. Meaning, here on this shaft, you have this shoulder right back here, going right around. And so the bearing is going to be up against that shoulder. And then as you put everything all on out here, it just all stacks together. When you put the big lock nut on, it all tightens down and tightens back against this big shoulder. And that's what keeps the bearing race tight. However, you also want the outer part to be good and tight inside this collar, because you sure don't want that to ever get loose, or worst case scenario, to begin spinning inside this. Well, I'll soon chew that all up and be gone. And so I'm going to grab a little bit of emery paper and kind of clean that up just a little bit, and we'll be ready to put this bearing in. And we'll take a little emery paper. Just kind of shine him up a little bit. Like I say, you just don't want loose and floppy in there. Don't look too bad. In fact, I may actually end up using the press and actually pressing that in. That way I can get it started good and straight, even. Okay, well, I got it set down in there, and so far, not bad. Okay, and there's kind of I kind of see a little bit of a ring of where the old one was at, and looks like we're basically right down to it. And so that'll work right there. And of course, I've got it marked right there, the T for top, and so it's going to sit on the side of the combine, just like that. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to grab me a chunk of pipe and in order to get that thing to line up. Because you got kind of like that tapered shoulder right there. That's kind of got started, but let's see what we can do. Okay, I found a piece of pipe. Might be a little overkill, or too long, but the next piece I found, it was too short. It was right diameter, but it was too short. It'd go over top this, but it wouldn't reach out far enough to be able to hammer on it. And so here's the only other piece I had that was the right size to match up to the end of the race on the bearing. So I have to kind of play around with it here and see what I can come up with. Let's see what we can do here. Now, if you're careful, okay, yeah, there we are. You can see how it lines right up to that race. That's exactly what you want. you can do a couple options. One, with a chunk of pipe this long, it's heavy enough that you can actually use the pipe itself to tap with. However, that can also be easier said than done. Or just get a hammer, very carefully hit on the end until it begins to start. And so, let's see here. It's kind of stuck on there. Oh, when it's got that dirt. Yes, you will have to take and clean that off. I'm definitely going to do that. Get you a can of ether and that'll clean it up good. Okay, I can see right now, however, this side started, this side hasn't. And so, in fact, I may get a hammer and punch and kind of peck on this side right here to straighten it up. If you get hammering on these, it's best to take and flip your punch around, use the big end to hit that race. Okay, we're beginning to start. And that don't look too awful bad. Okay, yeah, we're beginning to start on there. Okay, well, I'm slowly making headway. Takes a while. Once I get the bearing back beyond that shoulder, I may be able to use that pipe a little bit easier. Right now, though, it's kind of off. And so I just keep jumping back and forth with the hammer and punch. I wish I would have pressed it on there. That'd be a whole lot easier. All right, it's slowly getting on there. Just gotta keep tapping away on it. That's why I say use the punch. That way you can't go in and mess up your grease seal right there if you use that small end. But if you use the big fat end, in fact, you can actually, if you need to, you can actually set the punch right there and hammer right there. Because it's not going to hurt anything. And so that's what I've been doing, just going around here. So, coming down on it. Okay, I'm making progress. I'm back behind this shoulder here, right here now. And so, that's why I'm not doing much videoing. You've already seen me tapping out. That's all I've been doing. So, once I get on back up here against the wall, I'll show you what it looks like then. Well, I finally got that driven on there all the way back to that shoulder in behind. And now I'm going to start putting my bolts in. Of course, once again, put a little Loctite on the bolts. Always run the blue, that way it's not too... The red is the high strength, you don't need that. But the blue does a good job of holding it in. It can't go anywhere. So I'm going to get these 4 bolts put in. Get that bolt holder line up. Works perfect. There we go. Okay, that gets those at least bumped down. I'm just going to take and finish pulling them down by hand. The last thing you want to do is end up stripping that bolt hole out. Okay. But that's why you put Loctite on. That way they lock in place and they can't go anywhere. Now the fun one on top. Like I say, if they would have bent that line around to where it's about even a ½ inch up higher, it'd be better. Okay. Come on, there we go. Well, that's got the bolts all in and the bearing is on. Okay, next step is this. And like I say, I always take and put a little bit of oil on these O-rings. In fact, actually, you know what? I forget. I just happened to think about something. I was going to use just some motor oil, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get something else. Okay, I forgot. I'm going to use some vegetable oil instead. Reason for that is like motor oil or even hydraulic oil, that kind of stuff. It can make your O-rings swell up and just makes stuff fit a lot tighter. But the vegetable oil does not make your the O-rings swell. I actually learned that trick off of it'd be that mechanic I've had redo engine heads for me, and he's the one that told me that. And so we're just going to take and put a little bit around that right there, because that's where that O-ring's going to kind of pop up over that shoulder and butt up against that bearing. I just make it pop on there a lot easier. There we go. Okay, that just goes on right over it like that. And of course, now the fun job is getting it popped on there and getting the teeth lined up. There's a new O-ring is going to grip a little bit tighter. There we go. I just had to wiggle it back and forth, and now it is bottomed out. Okay, we are up against the bearing. Like I show you, the back side of this goes against the bearing race. And so now we are on those teeth, and same thing here. These teeth, you do not put Never Seas on, because that is actually filled full of oil. So they don't need Never Seas, because they're standing in literally operating in oil, because this whole cavity is filled full of oil. And all right, that's got that. Okay, and the next step is this big guy. You got these O-rings going around right here. I'll take and oil them up. And I will actually try to put this on before I put that piece in. That will just make it, for one thing, I'll make it a lot lighter. And we'll see how it goes on. But I'm going to grab my oil and hit these O-rings. And I mean, you don't need to have oil just running everywhere, but just a nice coat all the way around. Okay, that's got those. And then we're going to go right in here, because this is where them O-rings go. You can spin that around. There we go. All right, that's got that. And it doesn't need to have oil all the way to the bottom of it, just to where it can actually, because once they pop in there, they're going to, that little dab of oil on the wall, they're just going to push right back with them anyway. And so, about the first inch or so, that'll work. Okay, now I got to try and get this thing up there. That's why I left that middle piece out. And even still, it's got some weight to it, I can tell you that much. Wow. Just got to be careful you don't want to tear these outer O-rings up on those teeth. And so that's how it goes. And now we just got to get it plugged into that pulley or that hole back there. I'm not too sure how well you can see that back in there. But yeah, this part right here has to go inside that. And so hopefully you can see something. Wait a minute. I'm going to try and cover that end up, because hopefully if I can get that thing shoved in there, what it's going to want to do is it's going to take and blow air right back out this hole, and taking cover that up, that way you don't end up getting oil shot right back in your face. Boy, no matter what, it's tricky getting that thing started. Makes it bad. It's so heavy it's hard to even start in there. All right, you know what? I did forget one thing, the belt. Now you can put the thing on with this on here, but it'd go on a whole lot easier with right out in the open. There we go. Well, I can see where it's trying, but like I see, with them being new O-rings, they don't like to plug in there very easily. Let's get the belt pulled back out around here. Okay. This part comes down, under, up like that. Then back over, down, around the fan pulley. Okay. Oh, no wonder why. It's definitely not supposed to be up there on that part. That's the rock trap latch. Let's get that down underneath that. Around there, over top the tensioner. Now we can go around the fan pulley like that. Okay. Now we're good to go. And in fact, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little tension on this belt, and it'll hold this in place so that I can kind of turn this here back and forth to help get them O-rings started. Okay, I put a little tension over there, so that's got the belt on. Like I say, you can change the belt. You don't have to take all this off just to change that belt. But figured, hey, if I can just take it off, it does make putting it on easier. But like I say, you do not have to take all this off just to simply change that belt. Okay. Well, let's go back over step one again. Can't get it. There we go. Like I say, it's easier said than done. Okay, now I want to take and put this over. Yeah, take and adjust my fan because it's blowing right. It's wanting to blow those things clear off. Well, sure enough, that thing must still be wanting to slide on the belt. I'm going to have to take and tighten it down a little bit more. Okay, we're in the... And there went the rags. Like I say, you just gotta keep playing with it until you get them O-rings popped in there. And what I may do is take and put the inner piece down through here, and that'll actually hold this straight. Like I say, I left it out that way it would be lighter picking it up there. Okay, that's not going to want to hold. The bottom's stuck in, but the top don't want to go. Okay, I've already oiled up these. And same thing on this plug insert. You got an O-ring right down here, side here. Take and hit him. Ah, there we go. And a little bit of a film around the outside here, because this goes into those O-rings right there. And so, a little light film. And then actually what I'm going to do is use this piece right here to hold that in place. Once I can get that plugged and shoved in there, I'll pull this here back out and put never sees on those splines. But I think it'll be easier to actually take and work with everything before I get never sees on it. And so we're going to take and plug this here in, about like that. Hey, there we go. Okay, now this here holds this part straight, and it's not one to always keep falling down on me. There we go. Okay, now this here is plugged all the way in to this part. And so if I remember right, in fact, it seems like I've actually done it on the R52s to get that thing popped in, is grab on up here with both hands, take your feet, kind of swing out, and hit it with both feet to kick it in there. Like, that's why I put this piece in. And so I'm not going to be able to film that because it's going to be kind of hard to do that. I don't want my camera to bounce off the top of my head. And so, but yeah, like I say, I remember doing that on the R52. Grab on up here. Well, let's see how it goes. Let's take and plug that hole shut. That way I don't get oil blowed over me. If I can get that to stick there, I don't know. Okay, let's see what happens now. There we go, finally. Now that's what you want. Hopefully it didn't bounce around too much, but hey, it got this piece kicked in. Okay. Now, I'm going to take and pull this back out. And that should, in theory, sit right there where it's at. There we go, just like that. Okay, and of course make sure you keep these shims and that you don't lose them. Okay, but that's how you get kicked in place. And so now, okay, now that we're kicked in there, now I can turn it. Just give them splines a little wipe down before I go and put more never sees in, which I had cleaned them up previously and they just got a little dusty and that kind of thing. But you just gotta swing like old Tarzan, kick that thing in place. If you're part monkey, that works too. So, okay, let's get some Everseas. Thankfully, whoever had this thing apart before, back before we bought the machine, had never sees this. Because I have heard that these can stick. And there's not a real good way to actually take and heat that up. You actually got to heat this part right here up, and you got to be careful getting that real hot, I would assume. Well, we're turning the chopper over. All right, that's got him all painted up. I can tell you one thing. If you want something that will spread faster than COVID ever dreamed of, anti-seize is just a thing. That stuff can seem to spread everywhere in seconds. So, and yeah, we're a little bit wobbly right there, but it can't go anywhere. Now, we're ready to put this plug back in. That goes on there like that. Plugs in. And now we got to get, there we go. Just had to get them teeth lined up on the other side. And that's it. And now we are ready for the outer plate. However, before you put that on, go ahead and put your belt on. Okay, got to get that down past the ag leader. That right there is the ag leader moisture tester. Around them big pins. In fact, actually, once you get it down so far, you may have to begin to kind of roll it by hand to get to kind of want to roll in place. Okay, now we're over that pin. About like that. Let's see if we can go ahead and take it on up on here. As it begins to pull, it will begin to pull down into that spring-loaded sheave up there. Just gotta keep rolling it. Back here a couple of years ago, this big belt actually broke. And so I had to put a new belt onto it. Okay, that's got the belt walked on. Now, we're ready to go ahead and put the big lock nut onto it. And you can put the lock nut on now, or which is actually easier, go ahead and put it on now, then put the faceplate, the outer faceplate on. Like I say, on the R52, since it's a smaller machine, in fact, the R52 and 42 would be the same, or going to be the same. But like I say, on those, the actual housing and the outer plate is all one piece, whereas here you got your outer plate and then you have this inner piece. And so on the 62 and 72, they're two separate ones, but the basic workings of the hydraulic part is all the same. Okay, there's the big flat washer. And of course, right there's the big lock nut. I wasn't exactly sure what torque these go to because my service manual does not say. At least I cannot find it anywhere. And when I was working on the left-hand side over there, one of my subscribers posted that they thought this here was right at about 550 foot-pounds. And so that's what I'm going to take it to. Well, either 550 or 600, one of the two. I may end up taking it all the way up to 600. But same thing here once again. I'll get some oil and put oil back there on the back side of that. That way it's not turning dry metal on dry metal. Okay, I got that big lock nut run in. And just before it gets bottomed out, up against that big flat washer, and take and put a little bit of oil on it. About like that. That'll work. I just grabbed my 3/4 inch drive socket. And use that to simply run it down and bottom it out. So now I'm going to take and grab my torque multiplier. That way we can put some power onto it. So we'll just leave that right on there. This here is my 1 inch to 3/4 inch reducer because, well, as you saw, I used the big cordless 1 inch impact to take that off. But my multiplier is 3/4 inch drive. Okay, I may have to take it, well, let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to grab a pipe and stick over top this handle, because as I turn on that, it's bringing that handle up and around. And I don't want the handle pushing against the clean grain elevator. That's not strong enough. But if I get like an extension pipe and just stick over top that, and kind of like I did on the other side, that'll hold it right in there. It can't go anywhere. I'm getting my torque wrench here set. Okay, right there should be 150 foot-pounds on this. And of course, with the multiplier being 1 to 4, 100 is going to be 400. 125 is going to be 500. 150 is going to be 600. And 175 will be 700. And of course, 200 is going to be 800. And so, let's see what we can do here. I got a pry bar stuck into the other side, locking it down, and I'm actually making it pull against the engine. I don't know if the engine's going to hold it or not. Obviously not, because it's actually turning. May have to go with plan B and try and lock it some other way. Well, that's not going to work. I guess I have to come up with something else. Alright, I went over and I took I actually stuck a longer pry bar into the other side, and now it's up into the main frame. So that should hold. We're getting closer. There we go. Let's make it click one more time, just to be sure. All right, that should be 600. I don't use a multiplier too often, but it sure is handy to have when you need it. Like I say, we also have a 3/4 inch drive torque wrench, and the same thing there. You don't use a 3/4 torque wrench very often, but they are, they're handy when you need them. Now I'm ready to put this faceplate on. Unfortunately, my pencil mark I had up here somehow got rubbed off. But I had that oil coming out around that one pin, and from everything I can tell, it appears to be this one right here that had the oil coming out around it. And so let's see, like I say, it's not directional, but the thing you gotta kind of play with though is getting these bolt holes lined. Once you get the big pins, the 4 pins lined up, getting the bolt holes lined in place. And so I just had to kind of play with that. Okay, let's get that up to right there anyway. And this faceplate isn't light either. Okay, that's got it lined up the pins. However, like I say, the bolt holes are not lined up. And so I'm going to have to take and see if I can rotate the back part and hold the center part, because like I say, the back half actually drives through those 4 big pins, because this here is fixed on this middle piece. And so the back part will turn because it's just in with those O-rings, and that's all. And so I'm going to have to take and get him lined up. In fact, them holes right there might be alignment holes. Maybe. Okay, I wasn't sure if it had worked good enough or not, but I just grabbed a small punch here, and that is letting me rotate it. Okay, that's got the little bolt holes all lined up, just like I want. Now we'll grab the bolts and the Loctite. Okay, I'm going to use the impact just to take and run the bolts down. Okay. I can see a little bit of a gap right there. Let's roll this on around. And we're closed on this side. Yeah, we're not sitting level. That's why I was running, kind of staggering the bolts back and forth. There we go. Oh, I know why. The belt on the bottom kept it held out. That's why. Okay, now I'm just going to grab my ratchet and go around and hit everything by hand. Okay, that's got them tightened down, and last thing you got to do is get this little guy hooked up. Get that screwed in there like that, then I'll grab my wrench and tighten him down. All right. Well, guys, I'm going to call this an end. I know part 3 here has been a little longer, but anyway, that's showing how you change the bearing and the O-rings on the hydraulic sheave. So I'm going to call that an end to this video. I will give you a heads up. I'm going to be doing a corn head modification project, and so make sure you subscribe to be able to see that. I'm going to be doing something kind of like what the Calmer or Calmer, however they pronounce that, kind of something similar to their setup. And yes, I'm going to tighten this tensioner down. But the way the Calmer setup does on the corn head, I'm going to do the same thing to mine, only I'm not going to add their setup. I'm just going to take and modify what I got, basically like what they have. And so, like I say, make sure you subscribe that if you want to see that. So take care. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.